Welcome to another episode of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast with your host, John Chen. If you're watching on social media, please subscribe, share, like, and comment. And while you're commenting, why don't you share something that you did over the Thanksgiving holiday? It is currently December 1st. Oh my gosh, it's December. And I'm very excited to share that I spent Thanksgiving helping out my friend Loom Verson, Larry J. Snyder, and Amir. We helped feed over 1,000 people here in Seattle, Washington. Fox 13 News was there. And the funny part was that nobody arranged for a DJ. So my role actually became the MC and the DJ for 4 hours, where I even took requests from people off the street who were having a beautiful meal. And it raised the gamut from Run DMC's Holiday to Linus and Lucy by the Gabaldi Trio. And it was really an uplifting, really truly uplifting event. They also gave away coats and boots and even pet food for the first time for those who have pets on the street. It was really something special. They're going to do it by, again, on Christmas. So if you're here with me in Seattle and you want to help out and make your Christmas special, let me know and we'll find a way to involve you inside of there. In addition to that, if you want all the episodes of the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. Get all your podcasts here and one of the top 15 platforms, and a new episode will release every Wednesday. And last but not least, if you want to be more engaging in the world, come check out the Engaging Retreat. Now in its 7th year, October 20 through 22nd. We're collecting speakers right now. So if you want to be a speaker, like a lot of my friends are, scan the QR code and then contact me and I'll share a way for you to become a speaker. So now, speaking of speakers, my next guest, imagine that, is a speaker. She likes to say when she connects with people, she loves to sit on the porch and chat. Or at least make it feel that way. So get a hot beverage, right? Hang out. Her background includes clinical training as a health psychologist, deep experience in consulting with organizations and one-to-one coaching, serving organizations through keynote speaking and emceeing, and her second child was born in a car. Beep, beep. And she was a big supporter of mine when somebody said I was chatting too much in a conference recently, which makes me her biggest fan. Please, let's welcome Dr. Patti Weiter. Hi, Patti.
Hi, John. I'm so happy to be with you.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here too, right? From Louisville, Kentucky, right?
That's right.
Okay, we got to dive into this. Second child born in a car. You said it was your fun fact, right? Talk about it. What happened?
Yeah.
What's the name of your second child?
So my second child is Leona, and I feel like it is fitting for her personality that she came very quickly on her own terms. And basically, a week before my due date, my water broke and started having contractions. And within 15 minutes, they were about a minute apart. And so headed to the hospital. But before we got there, we had to navigate some construction and things, and it was a whole comedy of errors in the sense of like this way, that way, where do we park? But yeah, she was already coming, and so some nurses ran out to the car, but she was born out in the parking lot in my car.
Oh.
And she still does things her own way at 8 years old. So
how long was it from water break to birth, if I can ask?
It was about an hour and 15 minutes total.
Oh, yeah. So you break the record. So my firstborn son was born in an earthquake here in Seattle. The earthquake didn't break anything, but I think it screwed up the episode of Friends or something like really important. But from water break to birth was 4 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's fast.
That's fast. And
yeah,
people are like, rub the tummy. So like I get a short, right? Nobody wants the 48-hour labor.
Oh, no. I luckily have never had that. I have 3 daughters, and the longest took 11 hours. But They're all very different. All their births were very different. And, it's fitting.
It's fitting. Well, a few of my friends don't know you, Patti. So why don't you just take this moment to share who you are and what you do in the world?
Sure. So I am a clinical psychologist by training, but I really love engaging with folks to talk about how they can build high quality connections, how they can craft their jobs so that they are having, greater well-being in the workplace and enjoying their work, and how leaders can use good communication skills to build relationships in the workplace. So I think that's how we scale impact. Most psychologists, if we're working one on one, we get to impact people's lives one on one. But I really like to look at applying psychology to larger groups so we can uplift well being for people in larger settings.
Well, amazing work in the world. We're going to talk a little more
Mhm.
about how we got there, but more importantly, is this is how you got to know me. So, Patty and I are both members of National Speakers Association, and recently in a conference, I was accused of chatting too much, and I was like, my attitude and my own intention was really just to be supportive of like I had a
Mhm.
number of friends who were speaking in there, and I understand this. Right, I wrote this article and I said it was I thank you and I'm sorry was the title of the article, and it was saying thank you, which is for those who appreciated all the supported chat. Right, it's like I'm going to be the
Mhm.
first to chat when you ask if you're a speaker to chat, so that you don't feel like you get that cricket feeling. Right, like when you ask the question and nobody answers. You know,
Yes.
it's one of the worst speaker feelings that you ever have, and I was just supporting like all the stuff they were talking about, trying to give examples, and people thought I was being too commercial and chatting too much. And so,
Mhm.
let's see, right here, right, as someone who has ADHD, which we'll talk about in a sec, I struggle with this as I am very engaged if I'm active in chat. I have run into folks who thinks it's too much, and I said, you will never be too much in my virtual, and if you bump into one of our guidelines, I'll find a way to gently guide you back. Right? Can we
Mhm.
podcast? I want to podcast about active chatting, and so you said yes to this, right?
Yeah, of course.
And one other piece I wanted to put in there too is they decide this person, whatever happened, or and again, it's okay for whoever you are. I understand that
Mhm.
maybe you don't want to go, but one of my parts is like I'd like Patty, if you were something like that, again, I would find a way to gently do something, which is like maybe
Mhm.
private chat you, maybe something that's like, all right, we know to give that type of feedback in private, not in public, and
Mhm.
and not have to go around somebody else, right? Like tell my manager or tell your manager or something like,
Yeah.
well, Patty's too chatty, right? It's like it gets
Mhm.
even worse at that point. And so I just want to guide with that. So, first with this, you've run into folks who thinks it's too much. So share with me a little bit about your experience of being experienced as too much by somebody else.
I mean, I think even growing up, a lot of my report cards would say, "Oh, she's very smart, but she talks so much," or she's, the distractive, inattention. If I get bored or if I finish what I'm doing, I'm talking, I'm connecting with people. That's what I love to do. And so, I've gotten that sort of feedback growing up. And then in adulthood into my career, there have been times I think where the intentions of why I'm talking,
Hmm.
or, in the sense of a virtual meeting, chatting, sometimes people may think those intentions are to steal the spotlight or to
Yeah.
take something away, where really for me if I'm engaging in that way, it is because I'm enjoying what's being talked about, and a lot of times my comments are in support of what's being talked about. So I think it's just a different perception of a behavior that people are interpreting in different ways. But I agree. I think if we can have some clear expectations about how we're going to engage in a virtual space, and then be able to give feedback if we do feel like something is really distracting, if there's a whole conversation going on in the chat unrelated to the speaker, I could see. But yeah, there's just times when people, I think, misread intentions and then say you're too much.
What would you rather have happen as being the recipient side? I'll tell you what I wrote around, but I'm curious for you.
Yeah, I
What would you,
think,
right?
if it's already happened, I would love the person to reach out to me and say, "Hey, I noticed you were engaging a lot in the chat today. And my experience was that it was a bit distracting. I wanted to see if we could talk about it or something, and then just have a discussion." I think that would be my preference, because I'll tell myself a story about what they're thinking if I can't really talk to them.
Yes.
But I think if I could, really look to the future, I would say, let's set us both up for success and have a clear outline of like, how will this engagement work. If somebody is in a virtual setting and says, hey, we're going to, not use the chat until later because I want to cover this material, then, I'm not going to completely not follow a guidance like that.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's nice if someone who's hosting an event gives you the guidance for how to engage, then
Right.
you're less likely to make those mistakes and then have to go back and have the whole misunderstanding.
Yeah, which then it doesn't put it on you. It puts it back on the organizer. The organizer should really be thoughtful and intentional around it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the keys. And again, if someone's going to communicate with me too, I usually start with a compliment because you have to go back. If you actually look, I have statistics. I
Mm-hmm.
watch all the chatting, Patty, and I have statistics from the most to the least chatter. Number one, I'm usually on the top, right? I'm just not gonna lie. And the second
Mm-hmm.
one is that good 40, 50+% of the audience is not chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And so by being a chatter already, you're already in the top list of engaged people, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
that. Do you really want nothing
Yeah.
as the
Yeah. For
organizer?
me, if I'm seeing nothing in the chat,
Right.
it's hard to, unless everyone's got their camera on, it's really hard for me to tell whether people are engaged.
That's right.
So I appreciate when I have an active chat as a speaker, but I know everybody's got a different style. So I'm not
Sure.
saying like that's the same for everyone. But for me, I like to have sort of call and response type of things where people are engaged in the chat.
Yes.
So it's not just one person.
Yeah, so I think it's around that piece too. So I would probably start with a compliment. Thank you for being one of our top chatters in
Mm-hmm.
this part, right? It to
Mm-hmm.
me it was like to many others. It could be to others. Doesn't even have to be on you, right? To others, right? We see you as one of the most engaged people. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's an and or something like that. And right, maybe like this specific speaker requested for less chats during the content pieces
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. I've actually seen speakers, they will have their producer or themselves turn on and off the chat if they really
Yeah.
care that much.
Yeah.
Then it's a clear
Yeah.
guidance. And
And I
then,
think if you're kind of cultivating a space
yeah,
with there's a reason for that,
yes,
and that's how you're kind of creating the experience of the event, then I'm all for it. I think, if there's thought and intention behind how
yes,
to use the chat, that's ideal.
yes. Yeah, so I'm going to give a shout out again. Marty Dickinson has Speaker Speak Live. You can go to speakerspeaklive.com
Mm-hmm.
and they ask people to not chat. They actually don't turn off the chat, but
Mm-hmm.
they do make a standard where
Mm-hmm.
during this 120-minute keynote, we would like, and for the benefit of the speaker and the benefit of everyone else, to not chat. Actually, it's funny. I'm the one speaker who broke that rule. But I told them up front I would break this rule. And I said, now you can ignore everything they said. I'm going to ask you to chat a whole bunch of times. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
funny, too, because I was actually selected as the number one speaker in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've got to have some ways that we engage with each other to say, like, how do we get the experience we're hoping to get out of whatever the
Yes.
event is? And then if there's feedback to be given, then we do that in a kind, clear way that we can resolve whatever disagreement or misinterpretation, there may be. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you about worst chat meeting, right? And so I have
Mhm.
one recently. Top car manufacturer of who I'm a huge fan had this somewhat private experience where you were supposed to be able to custom make a new version of the car coming out. It was like for current owners, right? So it was like only 40,
Mhm.
50 people. They not only turned the chat, what did they? They turned the chat off and they turned something else off. Oh, our ability to unmute. All of those got turned off. We're like, why didn't you just send me a video?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
we
Yeah,
didn't get,
I've attended things like that before too, and even times when they didn't know it was turned off, so the speaker was saying things like
oh,
to
even
get
worse.
responses, and they didn't know that people couldn't unmute, and I felt bad for them.
They, yeah, they feel bad like nobody's talking,
Yeah,
like
no
nobody's.
one's replying, and it's like, we don't have any ability to.
Okay, so what's a meeting like that? So what's a worst chat meeting you've ever
Yeah, I
been
think,
on?
for me, I think there's two ends of the spectrum. So when it can get distracting in the chat might be if someone is having a whole conversation that is not relevant to what is going on, what the topic is.
Right.
I've had times when that has happened, and it can be a bit distracting. But I think probably the worst on the other end is just in general, if the chat is open and people can unmute and a speaker says, somebody speak or put in the chat this or that experience, and it's crickets. For
Okay.
me, I think like we've said, I'm going to be the one to put something in the chat at that point because I don't want to leave them hanging. And
Right.
when I've, had people with that experience, I feel bad for the speaker. For me, if it happens to me though, I'll kind of say, oh, so it doesn't seem like that resonates with you all. Nobody has an experience to share. I find a lot of times there are people who are very shy to unmute in a meeting or put something in chat. And so they take a little prompting. But yeah, I think it's awkward when there's crickets.
Well, I've talked about crickets a lot, and some
Mm-hmm.
people ask me too because it's a top speaker challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask a question, you get nobody. When you ask for a chat, and you get nothing. And I've been there, and occasionally too. Sometimes it's cultural, or sometimes it's the audience, or whatever. Actually, my really good friend Rebecca P. Murray called for a breakout, trying to get more
Mm-hmm.
people to interact, and like 80% of the people logged off because she
Oh,
didn't ask in that culture of that
mm-hmm.
meeting of whatever association or group of people. They just don't do breakouts, so they all
Yeah.
logged off instead of
They were like,
telling her.
nope, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so she didn't know, but she now adds it to every single speaker prep going, is it okay with your group with breakout? Do they like breakouts? Do they not?
Yeah. I like also sometimes to turn that into an opportunity. So, like, depending on the question I asked, if I say something and I'm like, tell me about, you know, um, the ways that you struggle as a leader to interact with your employees, and then it's quiet or nobody's put anything in. I'm like, you all don't have any issues. You all must be having like a great experience with your employees. You're not having
Yes.
any struggles. So that it's sort of, of course they are. Of course people are. And so then usually you'll get some people that start responding. But I think, it's hard to break the ice for some. I think for us, the too much people, it's not hard for us to break the ice.
Right.
But it's like you've got different ends of the spectrum. So
Well, now I'll love. So I do talk a lot about psychological safety and the
hmm
ways to build it on virtual, right? Because they're slightly
hmm
different than how you do it in person.
hmm
But uh, again, this was top research from Google Aristotle for high
hmm
performance teams. They have 5 things, read the research. But the number
yeah,
one was psychological safety, defined as I feel safe taking a risk in front of my peers or my
hmm
teammates. And that's like every virtual meeting. So I've really taken this part, and I would love to hear some of your, like, I'll share my number one technique is like I'm looking a way to ramp up the psychological safety at the beginning. And often when you don't get any replies, that you asked a question that required more safety than where you're at.
yes,
And so people ask me for openers all the time, and I said I'm still on the easy one, which is where are you from, where are you calling in from, what do you have for
hmm
breakfast. So it's something that's very easy that they are willing to respond to, that they know the answer to, they're willing to chat to. And the reason for it is because once they've responded once, it's much easier to get them to respond the second time, and then you can work your way up the
yes,
chain to something more difficult, like, what's the meaning of life? And,
yeah,
and so I'm curious for
yeah.
you, what are some of the ways that you do this in your meetings?
So I would definitely say a big part of it for me is having a discussion about expectations. So before the event even begins, making sure
Mm,
that we're talking about that. And like you said, the culture of the group you're going to be talking to. And then I really think it's important to affirm people who do come off mute or who do, participate, where you're reflecting on what they've said or they're encouraging them to, elaborate on something. So they get this sort of reinforcement that I wanted your participation, you participated, and I appreciate it. And so I'm glad, I think that builds that psychological safety that it was appreciated. And that when there are opportunities for others to speak, they might feel like it's safe to do because they've seen how it worked for someone else. And I think part of that too is like if I ask a question that there's not a one correct answer to, I try to make that known. And also to say, like, I don't know everything, so I'm fallible. You tell me. If I'm speaking to a group of architects, I'm not an architect. You tell me, what's it like for your all's experience with this in your workplace setting? Because maybe there's nuances to your workplace that are different than what I would know. So I think, sharing fallibility and affirming people when they do participate.
I love it. Do you ever take it? You said you're a karaoke singer. I love that, by the way. And have you ever done improv?
I have done some improv, not any sort of official um, like trainings or groups or anything like that, but we've had some just like different improv activities
Yeah,
of different
right.
programs that I've been a part of, and I think it's really fun. I love humor that is off the cuff, and I think it's fun when you can banter with someone. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I think that's a huge part of being a speaker is just being able to roll with it. Whatever, I was at an event and the power went out and we're sitting in the dark. And so what do? You just have to find a way to roll with it. And I think, like improv, you have to just kind of keep going. You can't let it throw you off so much if you have a tech problem or, something is, going wrong, keep going.
Here was the best improv line I heard recently. There was somebody, and they were started their keynote, and they got a fire alarm, and now they got
Mm.
to evacuate everybody. So they evacuate everybody, right? And it turned
Mhm.
out it was longer than the meeting, like whatever it was, and so they actually discontinued the end of the meeting. All right, and then they invited the speaker back next year. So now they announced the speaker coming back on, right? A year later, blah blah blah. Here's this person, and he comes up there, and his first line is, "Like I was saying."
Exactly. Exactly. Use it. Use it.
It
Just
was
keep
funny,
rolling.
like crushed the floor with that. Yeah, with that topic. Let's see. So, what is so? What's the most engaging meeting or conference that you've been on that's not yours in the past 5 years?
Mm. I loved going to the International uh, Association of Positive Psychology. They have a World Congress every other year.
Ooh,
And I went to the one in 2023 in Vancouver, and everything is cultivated around meaningful connection. So they had, ways that you could interact asynchronously, writing some things on a board related to gratitude or, things that you're learning from the convention, but also just prompts for people to be able to connect with each other, in real time during sessions or during the breaks and snacks. And I just love the intention that was behind all of the um, experiences that we were having. Plus, people who are really interested in positive psychology are generally, people drawn towards that type of connection. So I thought it was a really great experience.
ooh, and that was all virtual.
No, oh, that experience,
That was
I
an
have
in-person.
done virtual events for them. That one that I was speaking of in Vancouver was in person. I would
Okay.
say virtual event that was probably most engaging, the Society of Consulting Psychology has had some virtual um, convention type of events that, again, are really set up for the types of connections we want to build with new people.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just breaking out in the same, ways every time. And there was a lot of intention from uh, the more seasoned consulting psychologists to call in the new folks and welcome them. And so I think setting that welcoming intention was really helpful.
Hmm. Fun fact: I actually got to produce the Gottman Institute's first hybrid conference. You know that John and Julie
Wow.
Gottman?
That hybrid is a challenge. I think that's awesome. I love the Gottmans. Everything they've put out for couples and just relationships is so thought provoking.
Watch for they have a new book being released about case studies of people using the Gottman techniques in multiple scenarios. around
Mhm.
the world. And I thought this,
Mhm.
so that's where all the speakers were invited. These are people who contributed these case studies to it. So that's something to check out. I hope you
Yeah,
don't mind if I
definitely.
can ask a question. I want to give a shout out to my very good friend, Yush Zaltzkopper, who was a late diagnosed ADHD herself.
Mhm.
And she found out too when her child was ADHD, and she had to develop all these techniques to work with her child. I'm just curious about your own personal experience with ADHD, and more importantly, I would love to hear how you view it as a superpower for something you do.
Absolutely. So I had a very similar experience.
Hmm.
You would think, as a psychologist, maybe I would have recognized signs and symptoms in myself, but I think I thought a lot of it was just sort of my quirks.
Yeah, right.
And I was a high achiever. So I was able to compensate in a lot of ways, and I wasn't pulled out, of class or anything like that. But then when my daughter was going into, I believe it was third grade, my oldest daughter, uh, was when we had her testing done. And during the follow up session, when they review the results and talk about recommendations, my
Yeah.
husband and I just kept looking at each other because all the things they were describing would also describe me. And we're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so I followed that up with,
Mhm.
my own evaluation. And I mean, it makes sense. I think the picture of ADHD, even when I went through my training, which, 15 years ago, was still this picture of a young boy who's hyperactive, where the presentation for a lot of people is different, where it might be a more inattentive presentation. But
Right.
for me, and I think I'm very impressed by how my daughter describes it. The superpower is, when you understand how your brain works, whether it's ADHD or any other kind of, neurodiversity, is that you can use the strengths, mitigate the risks. And
Hmm.
one of the strengths is when I can hyper focus on something, I am able to just really dig in. And sometimes I can trick myself. And so, whether I make it into a game or I have a timer or something that makes me more motivated, I am so quick and able to just get things done in a way that other people have given me feedback. They're like, how are you so quick with these things? And I'm like, well, it's not everything. You should see when I need to fold my laundry. But, I think it's being able to sort of know yourself and then set yourself up for success. So
Right.
whether that's ADHD or other types of neurodiversity, using those strengths. And then if there are areas you struggle with, you set up these kind of mechanisms to help yourself.
Oh, this is a big discussion that I'm having. I think it was a board member from MPI around why do we push our learners to learn in a particular style? Why don't we, this goes right? It's just like this chatting thing. Which direction should we be focusing on? So one
Mm-hmm.
of them is that I know for myself, I have to incorporate a multiple styles into whatever I'm presenting so that I have a better chance of hitting, more of the styles. Here's one, Patty, I don't know if you've tried this one. I found that I had a group from Saudi Arabia. And again, Saudi Arabia was a culture I didn't really know or understand. So it took me a while to learn. And I had a
Mm-hmm.
group that wasn't responding to anything. I like sat down and had a little talk with them, going, too, they actually have their instructor or like the person supervising is watching this part and saying, if you don't interact, you're going to, so trying to threaten and do all these other things around there, just trying to pull something out. And then I discovered something else. I said, we had this exercise where I would have them reflect on the thing I asked them for 60 seconds. I said, write down as many answers, whatever you want during your 60 seconds. I'd play very, very light music, no words, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked for feedback and six hands went up.
Yes.
And so that is a really, it sounds so small, but it is a magical technique. And you can even use it with extroverts too, because sometimes they don't quiet this part of their brain down uh,
Mm-hmm.
to get to this different level of answer. So it's something that I will incorporate it into the program. So what I'm going back to is it's often on the instructor or the speaker or the facilitator. What are you doing to, draw out these other styles that are inside of there? Again, I'm curious if you do some of these things, or if you have a favorite technique you use.
Yeah, definitely. I think, some of the logistics types of things that I can prepare ahead, if I'm
Yeah.
going to have a poll, if I'm going to, ask certain questions that are intentional so that I can get participation in the chat in a way that I like it.
Yeah.
I'd love that, taking a break for, intentional reflection for a short bit so that then people can share, and even maybe saying, all right, everybody type your answer. Now, when I say go, hit send. So it's not just them sending.
Yes.
I think all of those are really, I think it's important to have a variety of ways that you engage so that you can connect with different people in different ways. Breakouts, I think, are another great way that maybe people feel safer to connect depending on the culture.
That's right.
But I think
But I asked.
you're right. I think we really have to have a variety of ways that we're allowing people to engage, and considering that one way isn't going to work for everyone.
Right.
And even in the way, if I'm using any kind of slides or anything like that, I try to be very intentional about having not too much on them.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow up with links and materials and things like that. But in the moment when we're talking and engaging, trying not to, you know, distract people myself by sending them in a ton of directions. So unless it's useful in the moment to have the link, I might say, all right, I'll send you this at the end. But yeah, I think just giving people opportunities to engage that they might be a better fit with some versus others. But hopefully, if I've got a variety, that it connects with someone.
So have you heard one of the names for the simultaneous chat exercise? Have you heard some of the names for it?
No.
One of the top names given to me by the Jam, which is oh geez, what it no yes, Youth for Environmental Sanity. Their online facilitators call it Chatterfall,
Hmm.
like a waterfall of chat.
Yes, I like that.
So
I
yeah,
like that.
so you're invited to use that term as you go
Okay,
along.
I love it. I love it because, you just all send them at once, and it can be
Yeah,
really interesting then to see what everyone's got going. And
yeah.
slowing down a little bit. I like your, suggestion of taking that brief break for someone to draft what they want to say, because they might not be that person that immediately has a lot to say.
Yeah, the way I use Chatterfall too is I have people write. I try and make sure the expressions are clear because almost
Mhm.
somebody doesn't get it right. But I said, write the chat, but don't hit enter until I ask you to. And they said, go and click raise hands. So I'm looking for the raise hands to hit at least 40, 50% before we
Yeah.
do it. And for those who haven't tried it too, there's a big energy piece that comes around it because you get all these responses at once, and it will actually
Mhm.
sometimes surprise you to say how many people are really engaged with me. Oh, it's a lot more than I thought. A lot more than I.
Yeah. I think using those reactions is another really great way to just get some quick feedback that is a little more anonymous, to say, yeah, just like, do we have anybody with that experience that, and people can, give you the thumbs up or whatever it might be. I love these, um, but affirming people, getting them to get engaged and then affirming it.
Okay, give me any word that might have an emoji with it. Common
Ooh,
word.
how about surprise?
Surprise. Oh, wait, watch this one. How about this one? There you go.
My kids would love that one, I think.
So again, if you don't know that too, you can actually hit the three dots and you have access to any emoji
Hmm.
around there. And so I look to get audiences to use more. I end up teaching them something about Zoom along the way because it seems like most people don't know. Speaking of
Hmm.
teaching, let's talk about this. Patty, from your seat, what do you think the future of virtual and hybrid is from Patty Weiter's seat? 5 or 10 years
I
down the line,
think
maybe.
I think virtual events are going to become more and more um, engaging, and that just allows us to connect in different ways across geographical barriers. But I think it takes a lot of intention to have an engaging virtual meeting, and I could see hybrid events maybe declining because of some of the struggles I've seen people run into. If you're not doing it really well, hybrid can be very challenging. So I could see us moving toward um, more virtual meetings and seeing them done with more and more intention, setting them up intentionally to engage a virtual audience so that the experience can be as high quality as it could be if you were in the same room as people.
Well, genius. Most people complain about hybrid being too expensive and too complicated. So this is my invitation to you, Patty. Well, as soon as your Kentucky chapter wants to run a hybrid, you got to invite me because I'll show you the way where it's neither one of those.
Yes.
And we had what is it like? This is where we bring this much technology even when we fly, and
Mm-hmm.
the result is even a PhD came back and she said this has been the best hybrid event I've ever attended. Uh, when you get it done right, and it's my hope is that well, I don't know if you know this. The stat recently says though hybrid is the fastest growing meeting format right now. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
because it
interesting.
started at zero. That's the other part.
Yeah,
So you get the
that's true. Yeah, you look at those statistics, but I think when it's done well,
yes,
it is beautiful.
yes,
And so I think it's just like making sure that when planning a meeting, we have this intention
yes,
uh, to invest in whether it be an MC, having the right tech, having all
yeah.
of those things, and not counting on it to just be, we just do the virtual and add a component where people can come in live, or vice versa. We have the live event, and when we have a live stream, it's like, well, you got to do more than that.
Yeah, I was recently this is like my third time virtual MC for AFCPE. They're like financial counselors. And it was
Mhm.
crazy because all of it started like by the middle of the conference, it started devolving into financial trauma. That most people's financial difficulties come from a financial trauma. And so they backed every keynote with a 60-minute virtual program where we could debrief the keynote. And like a woman admitted that she stopped caring about money when she was 4 years old because of something. I think they said the family bought a new car and they told a 4 year old child to not tell the neighbor that they bought a new car. They didn't want to be boastful. And of course, she's 4 years old. We got a new car,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then she got scolded for it. And then after that, because of that event, she stopped caring about it for almost 30 or 40 years when she became a financial counselor and discovered that and was able to overcome this belief.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Crazy
have a
stuff.
friend who's a psychologist who did a special certification in working with people as a psychologist who have trouble with finances.
Ooh.
So, separate from somebody working with a financial planner, how
Yep.
do we help you work on those psychological kind of challenges that are resulting in you having all of these financial
Yep.
concerns? So it
Tell your
is. It's
friend.
like
Yeah.
you never know where it will go when you start digging into those conversations at an event.
Tell your friend about AFCPE because you can get a certified in it.
Hmm.
Right. And then meet other people like you, which is
Yeah.
that's I thought that was the amazing part. Okay,
Yeah.
we've come to this amazing part of this interview known as the speed round. I have
Okay.
been writing questions while interviewing you. I did not know what they were before we started. And so I'm going to ask them to you, and you have to answer them as quickly as possible if you're okay with that.
I will try.
And then I will play some unique noise like this. Okay, good. Here we go. Best chat you've ever seen.
Hmm. Someone shared that they were um, had been on a meeting and had gone shopping, and they were dialing in while they were out at a store. But it was memorable.
Probably Target, maybe Walmart. Okay. Best clear expectation during a meeting.
Ooh, that you want people to participate in a breakout, and they're prepared for that at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, yeah. The fact that they told you, I do this too. That's another technique. I will tell people something way before they do it so they have time to think.
Yeah.
Who, besides you, creates the best psychological safety to you?
I have a colleague. His name is Brian McCoben. He does a wonderful job at just engaging with people in spaces that immediately lets them feel seen, uplifted, so that they can participate in whatever way is best for them.
I don't know, Brian. I'm going to have to go figure this out. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite beverage on your porch?
Sweet tea.
Oh, yeah. You're a sweet tea. You're definitely.
Yeah.
Either it was mint julep or sweet tea.
Yeah.
Tell me more about any topic you'd like.
Well, I'll tell you about karaoke since we've connected on that. And I will say, I think that there are certain songs that are going to set you up for success. So, songs that people will participate with might be Friends in Low Places. I really enjoy doing Rapper's Delight, even though it's a hard song because people sing along to the chorus.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Dolly Parton, 9 to 5. It's
Yes.
just certain songs. If you do them, everyone will sing along and you'll have more fun and you don't have to depend on your voice being great.
There you go.
I like
Will lead me to this. Well, so by the way, number one rule that I tell when people, I do KJ now. I actually I get paid as a KJ.
Mhm.
Is song selection. You got to pick song selection, right? Number one is it's in your range, and number two is like the group is going to like it. But song selection is
Yeah,
number one. What is
definitely.
your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, I'll do the one that if my husband will duet with me, we like to do Johnny and June Carter Cash, Jackson.
Jackson. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't
My
think I know
husband's a
that
little
one.
more shy, but he'll do that one with me. So I love it.
I thought you were going to pull the duet from Shallow. You know, Shallow is like
Uh,
a duet.
I
If
don't
you,
know. That one would require a little bit more vocal range than I have.
Grease. We do the other one too. Grease. Summer Loving is a good
Yeah,
one.
that one's really fun. People
Okay.
love it.
A psychologist you respect.
Ooh, I will say, there's a lot. I'm going to go with Barbara Fredrickson with the broaden and build theory, positive psychology. Love it.
Oh, I think you're familiar then with appreciative inquiry then.
Yes.
I
Oh,
actually got
I
certified.
actually was at an event and spoke with someone who I didn't know who they were when we were speaking that does a lot of research around appreciative inquiry. And I knew them by name, but didn't know who this person was I was speaking to. And then when they introduced, I was like, oh my gosh, I've read all your stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet Cooper Ryder, right? One of the creators.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Last question is if you could get people to magically remember one thing from this interview, what would it be?
Oh, I think it would be that if you want a certain type of engagement, that you've got to set that expectation from the beginning and um, affirm people when they have participated in a way that you appreciate. And if you have any concerns, follow up with them individually.
Outstanding. Patti, thank you so much for being here. Your link is in the description for this. If you want to learn more about Dr. Patti, make sure and click the link, find out more. And if you're in Louisville, Kentucky, go get a sweet tea on our porch, right? Patti,
Definitely. Come join me.
Patti, thank
Thanks,
you so much
John.
for being here. All right, let's see. Oh, wow, I removed my spotlight. This is great. Wait, where am I? I'm a professional, I promise. Oh, I can't even do that. Oh, I know why. Your bot removed itself. Okay, let's see if I can do this the right way. Okay, fine. Let's do it this way. All right. Hey, I'm John Chen, and you've been listening to Dr. Patti Weiter here on the Engaging Virtual Meeting podcast. And she's saying, come have a sweet tea. And what else is she saying? Think about how to be intentional in your meetings. And both of us say, if you're in one of our virtual meetings, for crying out loud, chat it up. Chat it up, because otherwise we're going to be watching for you going, what's wrong with you? Or where are you? Or are you okay? Or whatever it is. We're here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Make sure if you're watching, subscribe, share, like, and comment. Thank you so much. If you want to hear all the episodes, there are like over 250 episodes recorded. I think 150 are now published. Go to engagingvirtualmeetings.online. Watch the entire library. Shout out to Jacques Martiquet from Vancouver, BC. He's got the most listened to podcast right now, beating out my friend Kelly Franklin. And if you want to learn how to be more engaging in the world, think about coming to the Engaging Retreat, where we put you on the stage for 5 minutes, scan the QR code. If you come in person or come in hybrid, it'll be October 20 through 22nd to celebrate the 7th anniversary of my book, Engaging Virtual Meetings. And last but not least, if you want to be like Patti, make sure, and you too could be the next guest. Go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet, select interview, and you could be the next guest here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast. Hey, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Drawing star people and keep cool people. Show you got heart.